you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking, and I can't help but smile? Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on, I put my feet up, and we just sing along. And I can't help but feeling, just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? Forever. Forever. Forever.
We made it. Hello from beautiful Nice, France. My name is Anne.
And my name is Jeff.
And this is Postcards from Our Golden Years. And of course, this is little Bella. So we all made it to Nice, and we are absolutely thrilled. But before we get into a lot of the details about what's happening here in Nice, we want to go back and show you what went on before we got to Nice. So, as most of you know, we were selling everything we possibly could. Right. And in the very last days of living in the United States, we had emptied the house. So we got most of the we got most of the inside of the house empty. There goes all of our stuff on the way to the port of Miami, eventually. Bye, stuff. See you in Nice. And then Jeff had to take over and get out in the garage and empty what was left of the garage.
Yes.
So he spent the better part of probably the last week we were there making many trips to a local charity where we were donating things.
Right.
On the very last day, I had our two wonderful ladies cleaning for us in the house, and Jeff had planted himself out there in the garage, and he had to get it down to bare walls. And finally, it was pretty much almost there, and then he came home and he said, "Oh my God, the place we've been donating things closed."
And we had to get rid of everything, so I was stuck. But fortunately, a good friend of ours came over.
Exactly. And Joe, we are so grateful that you dropped by just when you did. Joe said he was going to buy the printer that we had, but it turned out when he pulled into the driveway, he was captive because Jeff started going through. It's like, "Joe, do you need this? Do you need that? How about a table? How about some chairs?
How about another table? How about everything else in the house, Joe? Just take it with you, please. Help us out."
If Joe could have fit more stuff in his car, I'm sure he would have taken it. So thank you, Joe. We are so, so grateful.
Yes.
And it just made it that much easier to finally get in the car and drive to Miami,
Right.
where we stayed for the night. The next day we were flying to France. But before we get to our night in Miami and the next morning, we received lots of comments from people asking how things were going, how we were going to deal with Bella coming on the plane with us. One question that came up, and it didn't come up very often, there were a couple of you who asked, you wanted to know, first of all, if we owned any firearms and how we were going to deal with that moving to France. Because it's not really that easy to move your guns to France. Let's back up by saying, yes, we had a couple of firearms, mostly that they were mine, that I had purchased in a prior life I had a restaurant, and my ex-husband bought me one for protection, and then I had an ex-boyfriend who bought me another one for protection. So basically they were for protection, and on a rare occasion, Jeff and I would take them to the range and practice. But for the most part, they were locked up in our home and for our protection. Well, when we were talking about moving to France, I just didn't see any need to bring the firearms with us. And it just wasn't an important part of our life. In fact, it was a little difficult. When I went looking for them to figure out what to do with them, I had to really dig deep into the closet to find them in the box we had them locked in.
Right.
So what I did was, first I asked around, and I found some friends who had suggested ways to sell them. And in the end, I went online to a website, and I will post it here.
So you went to a website.
Okay, so on this website, you click on something, there was a link there to submit your information on the firearms that you wanted to sell. And you uploaded pictures. They told you which pictures to send, a picture of this part, that part, or whatever. So I uploaded that for each of my guns. And then they email you back, probably, I want to say within 24 hours. Now, I did this on a weekend. So first thing Monday morning, I got a response. And what they did was they made me an offer for each of the guns that I was selling. So one was a Lady Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum, and one was a Walther, I think it was a Walther.
9mm?
Well, it was a small little Walther PPS that I had used to carry in my purse as just a carry piece. They made me an offer on each gun. Now, I was more than pleased with what they were offering me on the Lady Smith & Wesson. It was far more than I expected, and it was actually about what my ex-husband had paid for it back in the 90s. So I was thrilled about that. On the Walther, they probably offered me 25% of what I was expecting. But by the time I did this process, when I ran out of places or people who were interested locally, I decided that because they were offering me so much more on the one than the other, it sort of balanced out.
Yeah.
So you are allowed to go back to them and negotiate. So I did go back, and I mentioned to the guy that I expected more for the other piece, particularly since I had barely broken it in, and that I just felt that it was worth more based on what I had seen on other sites where people were privately selling their firearms. So he got back to me, he offered me an additional $50. I accepted it. Is you box up the firearms, and they give you instructions on how to wrap them safely. And then they send you a prepaid mailing label. So there's no real expense on your part unless you don't have a box to go buy a box. But in our house, we had plenty of boxes at the time. So you box up all of the guns very carefully, and you take them to UPS and drop them off at UPS. As soon as they received them, I got a confirmation that they received them, and they reconfirmed their offer. I told them I wanted them to just directly deposit the money into our bank account because we were actually moving in a few days, and I didn't want to have any mail hanging out or checks or what have you coming in the mail.
Right.
So the day that I told them to directly deposit the money in the bank account, they confirmed later in the day that they had sent the money to our bank account. I checked my bank account later that night, and the money was in there. So,
Easy.
Very smooth,
Easy.
So if you're moving to France and you don't want to take your firearms with you, it's a real good place. I would highly recommend it, and especially if time is of the essence. Now, if you want to go locally and try to sell it to a gun shop, I was told by numerous people and from reviews I had read online that this place that I sold my firearms to offered better prices than if you went to a gun range locally and sold them your pieces. I just took their word for it and did it. Here, if you want to bring a firearm to France, I believe you're allowed to have it, but you're not allowed to keep it in your home. You have to keep it at a gun club or something to that effect. I didn't do a lot of research on it, honestly. I'm not an expert on this, so you'll have to do your own research. I just knew that we were not going to take them with us to France.
Right.
So, another thing off the list. Check.
Check.
Okay, so the next thing we did is we went to the post office to change our mailing address. Now, there are two ways to do this. I had told you in another video that we had set up an account with physicaladress.com. And I changed the address on all of our credit card and bank accounts over to that address. However, there are other people who occasionally send mail to us that we hadn't given that address to, and we really didn't want them to be mailing to us in Orlando, where that physical address company is located.
Right.
So we actually wanted the post office to forward a lot of our mail, not bills and things like that, but we wanted other things, like things from Social Security or Internal Revenue.
Christmas cards, birthday cards.
Yeah, things where people just, they're not on Facebook, they don't follow YouTube, and they didn't know we moved. So we had to go to the post office in order to make that change of address for Europe. You have to do it in person. So we went to the post office a couple of days before we moved. Now, that was probably a big mistake. We probably should have done it a few weeks before we moved. We went to stand in line to get a form that you have to complete. You have to show identification in order to change your address to some place outside of the country.
Right.
But there was a man in a red vest who saw us in line, asked us what we were there for. We told him. He gave us the form, we completed it, and he said he would take care of it. There was no cost to do this, but he did ask to see my driver's license.
Right.
So that was fine.
ID.
Subsequently, we got to France, and nothing was happening with our mail. One of our neighbors went to our mailbox at our old address and found that our mail was still being dropped off in the mailbox. So I had to call the post office. Actually, I went online to their chat through Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
And through their USPS website. And that person kept telling me to call some 800 number. Well, the 800 number didn't work from France. And they didn't seem to get that I was in France and I couldn't call that number.
Right.
And I just wanted them to tell the mail carrier, stop delivering mail here. In the end, we had to do two things. I asked my neighbor to put a note in the mailbox and tape it to the mailbox so that the mail carriers saw it. And the note hopefully said, stop dropping mail here. They have moved. There is a forwarding order on file. Please refer to the forwarding order.
Right.
So that happened. Then I went online and I managed to find an 800 number that was for international callers. I don't remember where I found it. I think I just went on Google and searched how to call USPS from outside the US.
Right.
And I found this number and I got on the phone with a woman who I filed a complaint with that the mail was not being forwarded, that the mail carrier was still dropping mail, and it was important mail that was in that mailbox there. So she filed a complete claim for us, immediately contacted our post office to at least alert them that the mail carrier needed to stop delivering mail. She then had them go and find the forwarding order, which apparently the guy that we handed it to had not entered. He said he would take care of it. I don't know where they found it, but she said that they did locate the mail forwarding order. It had then subsequently been entered into the system, and no more mail would be dropped off at the old address. So it was really a pain.
But it got resolved.
In the end, it got resolved. Now, we haven't received any of our mail yet from the U.S., but she had told me that it could take 10 to 15 days to start receiving the mail because it's not coming here by priority.
Right.
So whenever it gets here, it gets here. So another thing checked off the list.
Check.
Okay, so the day that we were flying to France, we were going to fly on Lufthansa. Well, that's how we did fly.
Right.
And we chose to drive to Miami. Our flight was taking off from Miami late in the afternoon that day. And so the night before we drove to Miami, we stayed in a hotel in Miami in a big bed for a change because we had been living on an air mattress for 2 months?
How about that? Yes.
It was so nice to get off that air mattress.
Right.
So we stayed at the hotel. The next morning we had a lovely breakfast in Miami.
Here you are for your last breakfast in America. Cheers. Oh, where's that glass? Cheers, my dears. Here's to starting a new life in France. Yum, yum.
We're in South Beach, Miami this morning, and we just spent the night here. In a few hours, we are going to be heading to the airport for our departure home at last. So finally we get to the airport, and as you can see, Bella is in her little carrier. This is the first time she's been zipped in that carrier.
Yes.
So she wasn't a very happy little dog. And initially she was being so good at the hotel and in the car, driving across the state of Florida. And I said to Jeff, maybe we shouldn't give her anything. Well, at the airport, we couldn't take her out of the carrier because everywhere we went, she had to stay in the carrier.
Right.
We were flying business class, and so we were able to go into the business class VIP lounge. You weren't allowed to take the dog out in the lounge. So the option was we sit out in the hallway and let Bella out, or we go in the lounge and relax on comfortable chairs, have drinks and food. And so we were sitting in the lounge and Bella started to get a little fussy, so we decided, okay, let's try this little pill that the vet had given us. And it was just a quarter of the pill. So Jeff got a piece of cheese and mushed it into a piece of cheese. She easily took it. And really all the pill did was sort of chill her out. She was wide awake.
Right.
She was moving around in her carrier, but she just wasn't whining anymore. And she was fine. So to those of you who were concerned that the pill was going to knock out the dog and she was going to be asleep or, drugged, it didn't look like that. It just looked like it was just a mild chill pill. Before we got on the plane in Miami, we took her to a pet rest area.
Right.
She had no idea what to do in there. It was a little tiny room, a very stinky room. It had a sink. It had a little plot of fake grass.
Fake grass and a little baby fire plug.
Right.
Right.
And we put her on the grass, and she had no clue what to do.
Right.
And it was just too stinky. I got to the point where it was like, enough. She has no idea what to do. It's going to be what she's going to be.
Right.
So we just got on the plane with her as is.
Right.
And so it worked really well all the way, I guess maybe 6 hours into our flight. It became daylight and we all slept through the night. So the plane was dark. I didn't hear her when I was trying to sleep, and I'm a light sleeper. So she apparently slept through the night.
Right.
About, maybe 2 hours before we were going to land, she started fussing in the carrier. We started feeding her bits of the breakfast, or I started feeding her treats and bits of my breakfast.
Yeah.
And she seemed fine. And then when we got to Frankfurt, we had an 8.5-hour layover, which wasn't great. Now, when we got to Frankfurt, they apparently are not as pet friendly there.
No, they're not.
There was no pet station. And even though we had an 8.5-hour layover, we didn't want to leave the airport because it's a huge airport.
And security.
And we didn't want to have to go through security again, and we didn't want to take her outside. I'm trying to remember, what did we do with her? We didn't do anything.
She basically just stayed in the cage. She stayed
Yeah,
in
she didn't want to go anywhere and pee.
Right.
So once again, we were in the Lufthansa business class lounge.
Right.
A few hours before our flight was going to take off, we had to leave the lounge because it takes some time to navigate that airport, particularly if you're doing a connection.
Right, because we came in on the international wing, and we had to go now to a wing that was a European flight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, our flight from Frankfurt to Nice was only about an hour and a half. And when we got to Nice, the first thing I did is take Bella out of her carrier. She was a happy little dog. We collected our bags and we came to our apartment, and it was so nice.
Yes.
So what have we done now? Well, Jeff and I went to IKEA and we bought dining room table and chairs. We bought some outside furniture for our terrace. We bought a bed, a beautiful bed.
And an amazing thing from IKEA, when they ship the bed, the mattress is all rolled up in a tight little box.
Yes.
Like the mattress comes in a box that's 16 by 16.
So Jeff built that bed. Oh my gosh. I have to say, I have had the best night's sleep since he put that bed together, and we've been sleeping on it. So wonderful.
So if you want to love a new bed, sleep on an arrow bed for a couple of weeks, and the new bed will feel like heaven.
So we went to Galeries Lafayette and we bought sheets. They were having a great sale, bedding. And if you're familiar with the brand Yves Dorlot, it's hundreds of dollars, like for a comforter cover, a duvet cover, or sheets, and everything was 40% off. So we got a great deal on one set. That's going to be our one really good set.
Right.
And everything else we're probably going to end up buying at the Monoprix. But I wanted one really nice set of bed linens. We found a great store on a main shopping street here in Nice on Boulevard Jean Médecin. There's a great furniture store. It's called Cave, K-A-V-E. And we found a lovely couch there, spent a little money on the couch, and unfortunately it takes 8 to 10 weeks to get that couch.
Right.
So it'll be what it'll be. So we ended up, there was a day bed in our guest room here, so we moved the day bed into the living room. It looks tacky.
But we're using it as a temporary sofa.
Anyway, so we're all set with that. And we have been making daily trips almost out shopping. Jeff has this thing that he wants to go for fresh food every day, and it's a good idea, and I'll tell you why. When we first got here, we went shopping and we put food in the house. This is when we came at the beginning of March.
Right.
We bought food. So I bought a bag of potatoes. No, it wasn't at the beginning of March. It was at the beginning of April. When we got here at the beginning of April, I bought a bag of potatoes. Because at home, if I bought a bag of potatoes, it could go like a couple weeks before I'd have to use them or they'd start growing again. Well, just a few days into this bag, I decided we were roasting a chicken, and I go to the potatoes, and they were the little golden ones. They're all sprouting. So I had to take a paring knife and pare out all of the eyes out of every little tiny potato. And I got about halfway through the bag, and it was like, okay, enough. We have enough for dinner. That's it. I tossed the rest of the bag because I just knew I wasn't going to use those potatoes in the next few days. And I didn't have the patience for these tiny little potatoes to cut like 10 eyes out of each one of them. So that was the end. Plus, anything you buy here, fruits and vegetables, there are no preservatives. So they look gorgeous in the store, but they only stay like that for a few days. You've got to eat everything really fast.
And the flavor and the fruits are so fresh, but again, short shelf life. They don't use preservatives.
Strawberries are so gorgeous. We never have strawberries in the United States that look this red, and when you taste them, they taste like they look.
Like they were vine ripened.
Exactly. In the United States, it's often you would get a package of strawberries and they all look red, and you'd bite into them and it would be like, this wasn't even ripe. How did they turned it red with chemicals or gas or something? But here, everything looks beautiful. So you really do, if you're buying fruits and vegetables, perishable food, you really do have to buy it pretty much when you want to use it or use it within a few days. So we are adjusting to that. As a matter of fact, when we finish shooting this video at some point today, got to go out and refresh our fruits and vegetables because I cut them all up last night for a charcuterie tray that we had.
Yep.
And now, no more. Okay, so now just an update on the status of our internet. It's taken us a while to get this video out. We were waiting for internet. We still don't have internet in our apartment. I am editing this video using a hotspot from my cell phone.
Okay.
And when it comes time to upload this video to YouTube, I'm probably going to go out to Starbucks. Some of you have been sending comments and saying, you know, you can go to Starbucks, you can go to the library, you can go to all these places and do your editing. The thing is, when I edit a video, there's voice on the video. I'm editing conversation.
Right.
I can't have that going on out loud while I'm trying to edit. Occasionally I'm adding music tracks in there. I can't have that. It's very hard to edit in a public place where what I'm editing makes sound.
Yes.
It's great if you're like, you know, if you have some work you're catching up on or something and it's quiet work, nobody can hear it. But for me to edit a video in public, people all around us, it becomes disruptive. So that's why I'm trying to edit it here in our apartment using the hotspot data from my cell phone.
Right.
But when I need that high-powered
upload
internet, I'll take it to Starbucks. So by that time you're looking at this, or by the time you're watching this, we've already uploaded it from Starbucks. And let's talk about the internet. So we had internet installation scheduled for this week. And the company that we went with is a company called Free. The price was right. And so far it's great with our cell phones. We're using it for our cell phones and internet.
Right.
When the guy came to install the internet, it turned out that there was no line already in place from the equipment room in the hallway here in this apartment building to this apartment.
Because Free uses fiber optic internet, which is very fast.
Yes.
But the older couple that lived here before us just watched regular television and didn't have an internet connection. So they've got to, from the equipment room on our floor, they've got to come down a hallway and pop into our unit. And the installer said he needed approval by the management company in order to drill a hole through the wall to get us service for our unit. Okay. All right.
So the guy was here for 45 minutes while we were having a conversation, translating back and forth. And my French, I'm finding out that my French is not as good as I thought it was. Because even when I can hear the guy speaking slowly, if I didn't have that vocabulary or know that vocabulary, I have no clue what the guy's telling me. So there's a guy on the telephone at Freebox Company installation site. He's using Google Translate in his office. I have the installer standing here using Google Translate on his phone. And I have Google Translate on my phone, and we're all talking into each other's phones delivering the message, trying to get the word through. So the installer couldn't wait any longer because they had only allowed 1 hour for him to come here and install this internet. And by the time all of this transpired, it was now over an hour.
Right.
And so the guy on the telephone told me that before they could do anything, they had to have signed authorization. So they emailed me a form, which I had to email to the management company, which they had to email to our landlord so that the landlord could sign off on it, so then pass it back so the management company could sign off on it, so they could then send it back to me, and then I had to upload it back to free. And then after that, they said they would call the next morning. Well, I get a little impatient. So we were visiting our friend at a restaurant down below us. And I said to our friend, I'm having such a challenge this morning because we have to schedule this appointment. And I don't know enough French, and I don't understand them because they speak so fast.
Yeah.
And I'm uncomfortable having to keep saying to people, can you say it on Google Translate? So he got all of the information, and he took the phone, and he made the appointment for us. Oh my God. Thank God for this wonderful person. He's been our first friend here in Nice. So anyway, you need to find a good friend.
And he speaks English very well.
Yes, exactly.
And he helps us with our French.
Exactly. So anyway, so he got us the appointment. Unfortunately, the soonest we could get an appointment is on Tuesday, which is approximately 2 days after you're seeing this video.
Right.
Hopefully by the time you're seeing this video, it's all worked out, and our next videos will be smooth as silk. So another thing that occurred, in the meantime, by the time you're watching this video, Jeff and I will have celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary. Yay! So I told Jeff I didn't want anything extravagant for our anniversary. And my husband is very generous, and he also is very stubborn and doesn't listen to me, which is a good thing or not so good. But now that he's not working, we don't have the wherewithal, honestly, for him to buy these extravagant gifts. So, stay out of Chanel and Dolce & Gabbana. No. So we were in our friend's restaurant, and while we're sitting there, there was a lady who was wearing this lovely pendant, and I was trying to figure out what it was. At first I thought it was a spider, and then I'm looking closely, and we figured out that it's a beach chair. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. So I started doing research online because I thought, I wonder what that is. So I found out that there's this chair, and it's sort of like a symbol of Nice. And it's called La Chaise Bleue.
Oui.
And it was designed by an artist that goes by the acronym SAB, S-A-B. And so I started doing additional research. And I found this necklace, yes, this necklace, at a jewelry store here in Nice.
Yes.
And that jewelry store is the exclusive location to buy this necklace. So Jeff wanted to give me this necklace as an anniversary gift. And in spite of the fact that I said, no, I don't want anything extravagant, I don't want anything extravagant. When I took one look at this necklace, I fell in love with the necklace.
It's the perfect necklace for Nice because the symbol of the Chaise Bleue is everywhere in town.
Yes.
So
if you walk on the Promenade des Anglais. There is a giant blue chair tilted on the side, and it has SAB on it. That is Saab's design.
Right.
And that's where this necklace comes from.
Right.
So subsequently, we went back to that restaurant where we had seen the lady wearing the necklace.
Yeah.
And off to the side, who's sitting there but that lady that I first spotted wearing the necklace. And I'm looking at her, and the jeweler, I had told the jeweler that I saw this necklace on a lady. And I don't know, maybe this lady is the only other person in Nice who has this one. It's got diamonds in it. And she said, oh, was it a blonde lady? And I said, yes, it was. And she showed me a picture, and she said, this is the artist. And I thought, oh my gosh, wow. So there we are back at this restaurant, and we see that lady again. So I called our friend out. The friend is the owner of the restaurant.
Right.
And I said, by any chance, is that lady the artist that goes by Saab? Did she invent this necklace? And he's like, yes. And he runs inside and he tells her to look out the window. Jeff and I were sitting at a table outside, and I show her the necklace, and she has the necklace, and she's so excited that I bought her necklace, or that
Right.
Jeff bought it for me. And so after she was finished her lunch, she came outside and we had pictures taken. And
Beautiful.
thank you. She's on Instagram as well. I have to go back and check her Instagram account and see if she ever did. She had the restaurant owner take pictures of the two of us together, multiple poses.
Right.
So that is our update for this video. Hopefully, as I said, we will have internet in the next couple of days, and I'll be able to go back to doing my videos. We do have other things we want to share with you that we have shot while we've been here in Nice. We went to some restaurants. We ran into a few subscribers. Unfortunately, I didn't take video of the subscribers. I didn't know how they'd feel about it. But I'll mention in the next video. If you're not a subscriber to our channel, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost anything. And Jeff and I are going to be doing weekly vlogs,
Right.
especially once we get ourselves organized here, from Nice, hopefully all over Nice and our travels. And we hope to see you again really soon. So thanks so much for watching. We hope to see you again next time.
Au revoir from Nice.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.